Sound the alarm! To arms! They are here!
Good evening, and welcome to the Watchmen's Report. I'm Cody Higley, and tonight, as always, we're joined by Jason Foreman. And we also have a very special guest who is making his, third, fourth, fifth, 100th appearance on the Watchmen's Report, Mr. Ralph Wilson Smith, one of our favorite guests, and the Republican councilman representing the city of Marion's 3rd Ward. So, Ralph, welcome back to the Watchmen's Report.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, and I hope that we can provide some information tonight that will set some minds at ease and be able to clear up some confusion.
I think that's a good goal for the evening, is to clear up some confusion, to provide some information. That's what we look to do here on the Watchmen's Report on a regular basis. So there's a lot going on in the city of Marion with the fiscal distress situation, with proposed cuts to some areas, fee increases, rate increases, discussion of the elimination of the 100% income tax credit. Where do you want to start, Ralph?
Oh, I'll start anywhere. The water's deep on both ends. So,
well, let's start with something a little bit easier, I guess. So Monday night, that was last night. Yeah, last night. I don't know. The days all, kind of flow into each other sometimes, Ralph. But last night, you had the committee meetings for Marion City Council, and an encouraging meeting took place, and that was with the new, or recently reformed, I should say, reestablished, that is, Information Systems Committee, which you are chair.
Yes.
So you put together an ordinance requiring, was it quarterly updates?
Quarterly reports.
Quarterly reports from the city's IT manager, Jacob Bolden. So what was your thoughts behind that? I mean, when I heard that, I thought, hey, great. And I know Jason Foreman probably was jumping up and down when he saw that piece of legislation. But it's a very much needed. That was a committee that is very much needed given the city's issues with its financial software New World, with ADP, which I don't even think ADP has been resolved fully yet, has it, Ralph?
No, I don't think so. I haven't heard a complete report on that all is good to go.
But see, that's where you'll get these reports. That's great. That's great. So, what are your thoughts on the progress that's being made with Information Systems Committee? I think it sounds like things are going along pretty good at this point, right?
Well, yeah, it's a start. It's kind of like building from scratch, because there was really no structured reporting system. I don't think there's any structured ordinances that require certain things from the IT. I think it's just been kind of an afterthought, left out there on its own. As a matter of fact, I said to the mayor, I think that our IT department has been an afterthought in this, and it's a vitally important part of this city. There's nothing in this city that isn't touched by IT, and we need to make sure that it's structured. We need to make sure that it's consistent, and we need to make sure that it will continue. The continuity is there in case something happens, because none of us live forever, and things happen all the time. So we don't want this come in on a Monday morning and say, we need to find a new IT director. And the IT director that we do find says, okay, what's your policies? Well, we don't have any. You know, do it the best way you think it should be done. And to me, that's not responsible management. So we need to make sure that we're getting the reports we need so that we can tell what else we need. We don't even know what we don't know yet. So the reports that we're having made mandatory are not all the reports that I would like to have seen, but based upon the one-man IT department that we have, it's a good starting place. It's a place that we can easily manage for now. And later on, as things come to light, we may have to add more reports. We may have to add different things. But it's a good spot to start right now.
Yeah, I think it's highly encouraging. Jay, what are your thoughts as the IT man?
I'm just happy to see it go through and see somebody that's competent heading up that committee. Ralph knows what he's looking at. These foundational principles haven't changed since the 70s, late 60s. There's no, and it was admitted by Mr. Bolden that there has never been a tracking system, and I'm sure that Ralph remembers that meeting. It was a couple weeks ago, I believe. That's highly concerning to anybody that's ever been in IT. You should be able to tell who did what, when, what was done, not only for tracking purposes, but for troubleshooting purposes. Some of these systems are complicated. So right. I even have to go back through my tickets. I do tickets, and we're a small operation right now. I'll go back through and look through code tickets and stuff of things that I changed that might mess something else up down the road. And it saves me hours and hours of time. Now, when you're dealing with financial systems and things of that nature, and who's got what permissions and what level those permissions are, and you know, we know there's permission issues. We've seen it. We've proved it. It's in writing. It's published on MarionWatch.com on all the social media pages. We've given the information to council. We've given it to Bill. We've given it to the state. So yeah, it's very encouraging to me. Thank you,
sure.
Ralph.
Yeah, and to put it into perspective, folks, I mean, just the ridiculousness of the fact that this hasn't been done up until this point in time. Here we are in 2026, and you think of all the advancements in technology, and every day there's something new. And here you have the city of Marion with its $68 million total budget, and one of the largest employers in the city is the city of Marion, roughly 300 to 400 somewhere. We haven't had a completed audit report, Ralph, so I can't give data beyond 2019, I think is when they last published that as part of the financial audits, but it was right at like 300 city employees. Do you know an updated figure? Does anybody know?
I don't know of an accurate figure, but my guess would be around 350 to 360.
350 to 360. So again, one of the largest employers in the city of Marion is the city of Marion, and has a huge budget. Again, 68 million is the total proposed budget for 2026. And it serves a city of 35,000 people, give or take. And you don't have these systems in place, these policies, these procedures when it comes to information technology. That's just shocking to me. I know it is to Jason, and I'm pretty damn sure it is to Ralph too. That's why he wanted to form this information systems committee. So it takes time, Ralph, as you know, and as you just said, but I think a lot of good will be done.
I think so too. And the good thing about it is the more we do, the more we realize we need to do. And each one kind of uncovers something else that needs to be done. And I just think about, you know, we work for the city of Marion. The people in Marion are our employers. and we're here to provide a service for them. And the people of Marion deserve to know what's going on in their IT department and in all the departments. They need to know that, hey, our city's in good hands. Right now, they don't think that. The information I'm hearing is we're all crooks, we're all thieves, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. I think we've got the most honest group of people in Marion that we've had since I've lived in Marion, actually since 1979. But the problem is that the problems that are being uncovered were done before, and we're the ones that have to bring them to the light. We have to bring them up and say, this is a problem, that's a problem, that's a problem. And now people are saying, man, all these problems, and you guys are there, are the ones.
Right.
It's not true. It's the problems. We're the problem solvers, and the people before us were the problem creators.
That's a fair assessment. I mean, as somebody who has spent an insane amount of time researching, not only through, financial audits, budget worksheets for many years going back, researching published articles, agendas, minutes, you name the record. I can say without a doubt that this problem goes back a long ways in time.
Mhm.
And it's kind of that game of musical chairs. And just imagine you got them and they're going, the music's going out around and around, and then you just walk in the room, music stops, and then you're it,
Exactly.
That's pretty much what happened. But at least you have people who are trying to come up with a solution. Now, you may differ, and I differ, Ralph, and we'll go over that when we discuss the budget here in a minute.
Mhm.
I differ on what needs to be done, what the solutions are, but that's all part of it, right? I mean, you want to hear constructive feedback on what your constituency would like to see. And you can't please everybody all the time. So there's somebody out there, take the recycling program. So I ran the figures on that. The average sanitation customer for the city of Marion recycles 1.39 pounds a week. That's nothing. You can literally fit in 2 standard sized trash bags the number of recyclable materials that the average customer for the city of Marion recycles in a year. So is it worth $500,000 in expense when you can come up with other privately offered solutions to the recycling issue? But that's the kind of stuff that people need to discuss, need to analyze, need to think about, and need to bring to their local representatives on council. And if you're in the 3rd ward, that's this man here, Marion's Chuck Norris, Ralph Smith. Right?
Well, yeah, I'm always welcome. Anybody that wants to make a comment or a suggestion, I'm more than happy to take that suggestion. And what I do and what I need is the input from everybody that's got an idea, because my ideas aren't the best ideas in the world. Our city council, we're not the perfect council that has the perfect ideas. We need input from everybody so that we can say, okay, here's my idea, but this idea over here looks a little bit better. Right. So, let's compare ideas and see which one's going to work best for the city. And so I welcome anybody to say, Ralph, I have an idea about how we can resolve this issue or that issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, if you're out there in the listening audience and you see something that's discussed tonight, or something that you have seen posted on the City of Marion's Facebook page or on our page, wherever, if it's caught your attention and you're concerned, bring it up. Contact you can go to the city's website, all the contact information for your elected officials, your councilman, mayor, safety director, whoever you need to go to is there. So reach out to them. And if you really want to bring attention to it, attend a council meeting. There's a, public comment period. Matters not on the agenda. If there's something that you want to bring up, and shout out to Kim Mayer, resident of the city of Marion. She did just that regarding the flock cameras.
Right.
And again, whether or not you approve of flock cameras, you don't approve, that was a topic that was important to Kim, and she just went to a meeting and brought that up and said, "Hey, I'd like to discuss this." And there you go. It was discussed, and it's going to be up again. They're actually bringing in one of the representatives from Flock, the surveillance company that's in charge of all these cameras. So that's pretty good when it comes to transparency and accountability. And again, I'm 100% against the Flock cameras.
Right.
Nobody cares what I have to say. I don't even know why I'm on a show, but still, they'll listen to you. They may not agree with you.
Right.
But then if that's the case, then get your, petitions and run for council. And then you can help dictate policy, but right now you gotta work with your elected officials, but they will listen, they will do a good job listening. Don't you think, Ralph?
Well, and I want to take a moment for a shout out and a thank you to Thaddeus Smith, fourth ward, or fifth ward, I think he is. Yeah. Fifth ward. Thaddeus, well, he goes and gets the information that he needs to get. And when this flock camera stuff was brought up to his committee, what did he do? He looked at it, he researched it, and he reached out to the flock, and he's got the people there that know what you're talking about, and he's going to have them there next committee meeting. So I want to thank him, and I really appreciate his efforts in that.
Yeah, I've talked to Thad a couple of times. He's a pretty cool dude. I wish we could get him on. He seems kind of shy to me, but I like Thad.
Yeah.
Thad is probably watching. In fact, he's probably commenting. I kind of jokingly gave him some shit, Ralph, about wearing a ball cap. And he was on me, man. He's like, "Oh, what's wrong with my hat?" And I said, "Hey, man, you got to dress up. You got to dress for the job that you want, not the job that you got." So,
we got a weird sense of humor sometimes. People are getting used to us. Ralph's used to us by now.
Yeah. Ralph don't totally.
Well, my wife gave me the dickens about wearing a ball cap at council, so I don't do that anymore.
Betty, that's her name, right? Betty.
Yes, Betty.
Betty.
Yeah, she gave me the dickens. She said, "That's disrespectful."
No ball caps.
Yep, she said, "That's disrespectful."
Right. Nah.
So I don't wear it anymore.
Like I told Thad, we might as well next year just have pajama nights. Maybe the female council members can wear those sweatpants that say "juicy" on the asses.
Oh Lord.
Stuff like that. Let's just get there. We're already almost there, Ralph, as a culture, as a country. We might as well just rip that Band-Aid off, I don't know. But
it might be too much blood there.
We have fun. But no, that's a great example. And I think that is, and you are too. I mean, you'll jump in there and reply, provide answers on social media. That's what else can you ask for? I mean, I think that's what we want from our representatives. So if nobody was saying anything, if nobody was replying or making comments publicly on social media, or if you brought in an issue to them and they just ignored you or told you to go fly a kite, then you got a problem. But for somebody literally to come to, I think it was a regular session of council and say, hey, I want to talk about this during matters not on the agenda, public comment period, talks about flock, and then what, 3 weeks later, we've got a representative from the company coming to address. That's pretty
Right.
good. It's pretty good. So
That's positive action.
it is. It really is. So good job, Thad, and Marion City Council for that action. And hopefully you will take the correct action and get rid of the flock cameras. Do not reinstall those. It's government surveillance network. We already talked about that episode. We did an episode and discussed that, Ralph. Check it out if you didn't happen to see that episode. But it's not a good thing. We don't need it. As much as Jay McDonald and the police may think that it assists them in the grand scheme of things and with our constitutional rights to privacy, it's not worth it. So get rid of them. All right. So the next little appetizer on the menu, Ralph, is discussion of the proposed zoning permit fee increases that were brought up by the inspector for the city, Zach Himmler. Now, Jay, I sent that link to you if you can pull that up. Ralph is not on, what was that, municipal services and
Right.
codes or something. Ralph's not on that committee. But let's get his.
The zoning thing came through my legislation committee.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah,
Like I
I'm
said.
the chair of the legislation committee, so that's where it came through.
Okay. Sorry, Ralph. Like I said, I watched it. And then I kind of analyzed what was being proposed, but again, these committee memberships and stuff sometimes, and now we're going to be getting 2 new councilmen appointed by the Marion County Republican Party to fill Twyla Lang's seat in the 4th Ward, and then Ron Prater's in the 6th.
Right.
Has there been any progress on that you can speak on, Ralph? I mean, does the GOP have somebody in mind for each of those seats? I forget when did they say they were going to announce it? It's coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, it'll be at 9 o'clock Monday morning at Republican headquarters. We're taking applications for, and have been for ever since they resigned. But then all those applications, Saturday morning, 9 o'clock at Republican headquarters, those people will appear. They will present themselves in front of the city representatives on the committee, on the Republican committee, and we will ask them questions, and based upon their answers, we will take a vote, and the person that gets the most votes for that ward will be appointed to that ward.
Do you know how many applicants they expect to have?
I do not. I have no idea if they've even got any or not. I know there's been a couple of names mentioned, but I don't know if they've actually put in an application or not. So if they didn't, then they're not part of it.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully they get somebody good in there, because Lord knows we need good people in elected positions. So, okay, so this came up in your committee, and was it a situation? I know Himmler said that the permit fee scale hadn't been changed in a number of years.
20 years, yeah.
20 years? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay. So this was what they proposed, and he broke it down with the current fee, which the first part of this varies per fee schedule. I went on the city's website to see if they had posted something that would indicate what each of these items are currently. It's not there. So
No.
they should do that probably. Put that fee schedule on there so it's publicly available. So I don't know what the current fees are for these top items, but if you scroll down, you can see on the right column that has the proposed fees. If you scroll down, Jay, kind of a topic, stop right there. A topic that kind of drew attention was the substantial increase in something like demolition. So commercial demolition going from $25 permit fee to $2,500, and some of these others like residential building. So now they're proposing a $300 base permit fee plus 0.25% of whatever your construction project's going to cost. So if you're building a house in the city of Marion, not that there's a whole lot of residential building that's going on, but if you were, and let's say it's a $250,000 house, which in today's inflationary environment, that might afford you a cardboard box. You know, that's pretty pricey. And that was brought up. So I think you guys last made the change to make it to where the commercial building demolition, instead of being $2,500, it would be $1,250 or something. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, because at the current time and for the last 20 years, it's been $25. And just to give you an example of what that means, down on Delaware Avenue, where the old Chase Bank used to be, was torn down, and I think there's a Starbucks going in there. We got $25 for that. And same thing with the Goodwill. They're putting in their headquarters. It'd be $25. So with the new rate structure, we would get $1,250 plus 0.25% of the total cost of the project, which would make it worthwhile because we have to do inspections and things like that. We have to go out and make sure, like they said last night at the meeting, that they're not digging a hole and burying all the construction waste and everything in the hole and covering it up and with a layer of topsoil and planting grass on it. And years later, you're surprised to find out that your property is contaminated. So that's what those fees are for. Now, I would prefer to have, I know they reduced the commercial demolition and the commercial construction to $1,250. I would prefer to have seen the commercial demolition stay at $2,500, because you don't have much choice as far as demolition. It's there and it's in the city. And in order to tear it down, you're going to have to get a permit and tear it down. $2,500 would be the cost of that. But where their options come in is where they're going to rebuild. And that's what I would like to see reduced, because, I would keep the 0.25%, but the reduction at $1,250 or even $1,000 to me would make more sense there, because you want to encourage those people to build in Marion and not discourage it. So, but they don't have much choice as far as the demolition goes. It's there, it's in the city, and they're going to have to do it regardless. And so we might as well collect the money for it, and the fact that make sure it's done right.
Yeah, I think that makes sense on the commercial side. I don't think that's going to be cost prohibitive to where somebody's not going to do something over that. I don't see that happening. But what about the residential, like new construction? I mean, as somebody that's in finance and lending, that seems a little bit exorbitant. Was much thought or research put into that particular item by Mr. Himmler, or do you have any insight into that?
You're talking about the $300 fee,
Plus a 1/4%, whatever your construction is. I mean,
right?
again, that's like $875 permit fee if you're wanting to build a new house in the city of Marion. That's $250,000 value, or
Mhm.
that's pretty high. And in fact, I don't know why I would put that on there really at all, beyond much beyond whatever if you're building a deck or you're you know some secondary structure like a garage. I think on here is what, $100 or something like that.
Right,
Um, I don't know. Was there, and there really wasn't any discussion about that.
right. Personally, I don't think that's out of line. Um, but not knowing what the variable schedule was, it's kind of hard to say, okay, maybe the variable was $50 for a certain type of structure, or $60 for a certain type, and now it's going to 300, or it could have been 100. I don't know. But if you look at the cost today of things, I really don't think that 300 for residential permits would be a big problem.
But even the 1/4% of the, I wouldn't even say, I would say 300 would probably be on the higher side, but it's at least something that can be digested. But when you're putting a 1/4% on top of that 300, and if you're, you know, not, and it's not even really that relevant. I mean, you can probably count on one hand how many new residential structures, now I'm exaggerating a little bit with that, have been built within the city of Marion, but it's not a common occurrence.
Right.
So we're kind of, I guess I'm kind of quibbling over something that's really not overly relevant, but we hope that maybe it will be. You talk about
Oh yeah.
additional economic development in the future. Somebody comes in, demolishes this old piece of shit house, and then they want to build a nicer new house. So it is relevant, I guess, in that regard, right, Ralph?
Right. And as I asked Zach last night, um, because he said that these rates were comparable with Marion Township. Um, Marion Township has basically the same rate with the 1/4% uh, total valuation. So we're not out of line with them now, which we have been for years. They've been higher than us, but yet they're still getting all the construction, and Marion is left without it. So I don't think that the cost of the permits is that big of a deterrent to building. I think it's location and what's available as far as services go, and that's why Marion Township's been getting, especially at the commercial building, they've been getting tons of that, and they have much higher costs than we've had.
Did you see any of that documentation, or are we just going off of the word of Mr. Himmler as far
Right?
as
Yeah,
this is?
I've just taken him at his word, uh, and I figure that Zach probably knows that if we wanted to pull the documents, we could. So I don't think that he would want to lie to us. Um,
Well, I'm not accusing anybody of lying or anything. I'm just saying,
right,
like, um, I think in casting maybe a little bit broader out, I guess, or sample, to see, do comparisons with some of the surrounding counties, even to see what their policies are, um, would probably be warranted. And like I said, I'm not saying that any of these other things are. I personally just think that the residential new construction seems excessive. That's just, and I'm curious. Um, Again, as somebody that's in that line of work as far as lending and things, and finance, like, I I find it hard to believe that Marion Township charges like a quarter of a percent of the contract. I assume they're going off a contract price. Um, but again, that's neither here nor there. This is just something, folks, to be aware of that's being considered. So again, it's going to be coming up this at the regular session of City Council this coming Monday at 6:30. It can be amended, it can be changed. If you have thoughts on it, if there's some item of this that you think strongly needs to be amended, then come to the council meeting, bring up your concern, reach out to your councilman, let them know before the meeting, and then hopefully this can all be something that is going to be updated because, like Ralph said, it's been 20 years, Ralph, 25 years. What'd you
20
say?
years.
Yeah. So you think of how much inflation has occurred over the past 20 years. So it's definitely warranted to make sure that all these fares, fees, service charges, what have you, are regularly adjusted for inflation to
Right.
make sure that you're keeping that revenue level consistent year by year. You can't
Yeah.
drop the ball and let something sit stagnant with no adjustments for 20 years. I mean, that's just bad administration. And that's what the city of Marion has had for 20 years.
And it's my understanding, Cody, that the ordinances that set these fees 20 years ago stated that they are to be reviewed every 2 years and adjusted as needed. And that hasn't been done. And to me, that's poor government. That's poor leadership that you're ignoring. I guess I don't know what they were thinking. As long as they had money in the till or were able to buy things and spend, it didn't really matter if they raised rates or not. But now we've run out of the end at the end of the rope, you know, um, and it's bad because nothing has been done for 20 years. Um, and another thing I'd like to say is that, and you mentioned it about contacting your councilman, coming to the meetings. I don't know of any city council person that's a mind reader. We do not read minds, and we depend on input from the citizens to make decisions. And we weigh that input against what's needed for the city. And we make our decisions based on that. And if there is no input, then we're going to make a decision with only half the information. So please, please, please contact us. Let us know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, and I can tell everybody out there 100% unequivocally that there's a few people, okay, that are very loud, boisterous advocates that will attend city council meetings. I have witnessed time and time again policy and potential legislation, potential ordinances completely do a 180 because one or two people spoke up loudly at council. Ralph, that's 100% a true statement, right?
Without a doubt, it's 100% true.
So I'm telling you, like, it works. It really does. If you will just reach out to your councilman, let them know what you think, or better yet, go to the meeting, go up to the podium and let them know what you think. It matters. It's almost as if that is reflective of the constituency of the city of Marion, or just the people in the room at that particular moment. Now, I'm exaggerating again, but it has a big impact. has a huge impact. I've seen it time and time again. Jason, you've seen it. So participate.
That's how we opened the Pandora's box of the IT and financial craziness. So there's that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jay went to a meeting and he spoke up, and it got some ears, it got some attention, and then it moved forward. And it
Right.
happened to be 100% accurate. So again, this public participation is crucial to the notion of representative democracy or a republic, whatever we happen to have at the moment.
Yeah, let me add something there too. Because we're asking people to come in and speak up, and a lot of people say, okay, if I don't like something, I need to go and talk about it. But if you do like something, come and talk about it, because your voice will help offset the naysayers who are usually there. Those people, you know, if somebody comes to me and says, I've got a problem with this, this, and this, the second thing I want to know is, what would you like done about it? Give me a solution. Give me something that would make you happy. And, you know, when I worked at the phone company, and I took a lot of complaints from customers, and I would let them say what they wanted to say. And then I would say, what would you like for me to do about it? And unless you know what they want, all you got was a bunch of negative comments. So we also need the input that tells us how to proceed, how to go about fixing the problem to your satisfaction. And also, if you like what's going on, come and tell us. Let us know that, hey, I support this thing. I think this is fine. And other people stand up and say, well, it's not fine. And then you can have your chance and say, it is fine.
Exactly. And this is a critical time for that, Ralph.
Yes, it is. Very critical.
Because there's a lot of things that are on the table. And the city leadership absolutely needs your input. And there's plenty of people commenting one way or the other on social media, but that's not the same as going to the meeting, advocating one way or the other for whatever you would like to see done, or like Ralph said, to go, and if there's something that you particularly appreciate, letting them know that it's appreciated, so that if budget restraints in the future come up and they have to consider cuts to a program, if it's clear that, hey, we get a lot of feedback that people love this service or whatever it is, then they're going to know, hey, we can't touch this because people love it.
Right.
But again, what happens right now is you have 2 or 3 people who go to the city council meetings and they just let council have it. And that's what happens. So whatever their cost celeb is for any particular meeting, generally that's what goes on, because there's nobody else there to offer a different opinion, a different perspective, a different viewpoint. So this is your opportunity. And a lot of crucial things when we talk about the budget here in a minute, ideas, like we said, to increase revenue, potentially cut spending to save some money. This is where the feedback is needed most. Right, Ralph?
Exactly. Yeah, we need to know what your thoughts are, as far as, you know, nothing is free. Every service that you want to have is going to cost the city money. Doesn't matter what it is. If it's a bus, if it's a trash pickup, if it's flushing your toilet, it's going to cost money to do that. And so we need to know what is most important to you, because some things are going to have to be done away with. Some things are going to have to be suspended for a while so that we can recover from this situation we're in right now. And it's a situation that we're in through no fault of the current administration. It's previous administrations that have dropped the ball and have not spent wisely or not increased the revenue as to the point that they should.
Exactly. Are you ready to take a look at the budget, Ralph?
Sure.
It's that part of the evening where we are going to share the screen with the current version of the proposed 2026 budget for the city of Marion. Go ahead and
Budget
pull
number
up
4, right?
budget number 4. Yes, the 4th version, long awaited. Jay, do you have that up? It'll be the general fund. Pull the general fund one up first, and then we'll proceed to the special revenue funds and the enterprise funds, and the capital improvement funds, and all the miscellaneous funds of the city. All right, go ahead and scroll down. This is from our good friend, the Swamp Fox. Shout out to the Swamp Fox. Man, that guy, he really busts his ass, or his tail, as he would say. All right, so here's the general fund expense budget.
Geez, that's small print. I don't know if
It
my
is
eyes
small.
read that.
Can you blow it up, Jay?
Yeah, I'll zoom in on it. Which area are you going into?
Okay, so let me first preface this. The general fund is the operational fund for the city of Marion. Okay, so this is basically when the government was small, back in the good old days, Ralph. Oh, buddy, the good old days when government was small.
Yep.
This is
We
what
used to drive the loop.
Yeah, right. When you shot the loop.
Yep.
This is what consisted of government in the city of Marion. And it all operated out of this local taxpayer funded fund called the general fund. Okay. So back in those days, it was primarily property taxes, and then they also had sales taxes that were implemented in the 1930s in the state of Ohio. So they got some money from that. Fees, license fees, and fines and stuff like that. That government was small, so that's how it could fund itself. It wasn't until the age of big government, 60s, 70s, and then up till today, that we have a whole nother sheet that has all these other bullshit departments. I'm being facetious, but anyway, a lot more government spending. So back in the day, this is the small government. This is how you funded it. And as you can see on the left column, things like utilities, senior center, planning and economic development, airport, mayor, auditor, income tax department, treasurer, law director, so on and so forth. So here we have the 2024 expenditures in the second column to the left. So these are actual. These are the actual expenditures out of the general fund by these various departments. And then you have the 2025 expenditures in the next column. Preface the 2025, it may not be 100% accurate. I do not know that the current director of budget and finance, with the situation with the auditors department, I don't know if this is final. She did include it as a final figure in an attachment, a budget worksheet attachment to the latest agenda for city council. So it's pretty damn close. Let's just say that.
Yeah, you
Then
were
you have,
within a percent or so.
yeah. Then you have 2026 budget number 1. So this was the full annual budget that was proposed. I think it was November 17th. It was proposed to council on November 17th. That ended up needing to be revised because within 2 weeks, Mayor Bill Collins reached out to the auditor of the state of Ohio for help. And that's when the state came in and declared them in a fiscal caution status. So when that happened, then they said, hey, this annual budget that we put forth, that shit ain't going to fly. We're going to have to cut. We're going to have to parse this down substantially. and Mayor Bill Collins directed all the department heads to a target of 10% cut based on that figure, based on the 2026 budget number one, the first proposal. So then that gets revised and becomes 2026 budget number 3. So go ahead and scroll down, Jay, to the totals just to show people the totals here. So as you can see, 2024 general fund budget was a little over 19 million. 2025, a little over 15 million. The first budget for 2026 was at 19,745. And then I think that version number 2, the 19.8, I think that was like an amendment off that first meeting or second reading. Is that right, Ralph? Is that how you remember it?
Yeah.
I didn't see a date on that when I was looking it over, but anyway. Then you have the third one, which again was after the cuts were made. So they trimmed that general fund budget down to 14.8. And then the latest, so version number 4, lucky number 4, was increased by $1 million to 15.8. So that 15.8, that version 4 of the 2026 budget is what is up for consideration by council. And you say, well, what the hell did they change? What they changed was they increased the transfers out of the general fund by $1 million. And contrary, Ralph, to what Budget and Finance Director Chelsea Troiano said last night during the Finance Committee meeting, she said that the $1 million was transferred out to help subsidize the police and fire departments. In reality, based on what was included in all these budget worksheets, in the ordinances, it actually went to the sewer improvement fund. So I don't know if she just misspoke or if all of her worksheets are incorrect, but that's where the money shows up. So any thoughts on this, just top level, macro level, as we would say in economics?
Well, my interpretation of a 10% budget cut would be based on the previous year, 2025, and your total figure should end up 10% less than that figure. This one is not.
That's correct.
So, your 2025, what was it, 15,259, something like that, 15,259,000, and then your 2026 is 15,817. That's actually a little more, nowhere near the 10% cut. I guess I can't see the top up there to see which column is which, but I believe that second column, yeah, that's the 2025 actual. So to me, a 10% cut would be 10% less than that figure right there, which would be down by $1.5 million. And so it should be in the 13.9 range, somewhere around in there, 13.8, 13.9. And it's not. So I don't think that we're reaching that 10% cut. So yeah, we're going to need to look at that pretty strongly at council and see what else can be cut, because if it's going to be a 10% cut across the board, then it needs to total 10% at the bottom. I can understand that maybe some departments can't cut 10%. Other departments may be able to cut 15%, but the total overall should be 10%.
Right. And that was the directive. So it'd be very similar to, let's say that your household. So let's say you're in charge of making a budget for your household, and you said, I don't know what the expense would be, but let's say it's an annually occurring expense. So it happens every year. And
Yeah,
you sit down and you say, well, we spent $10,000 last year on this item. and then you got to plan your budget for this coming year. And let's say you fill it out and you say, oh, well, I spent 10,000, I'm going to put 15,000 down. And then you kind of say, the wife's going to bitch at me. We can't spend $15,000 on this year. So I'm going to cut that back to 12,500. Then your wife comes to you and says, hey, did you cut the budget on that? And you say, yeah, honey, I did. I cut it by $2,500. No, you increased it by $2,500.
Right.
You cut it by $2,500 off of what you had projected to spend more when you were going to spend an extra $5,000. So that's what the city did. Whether knowingly or not, that's what the city did, Ralph, and you admitted it, you know it. So it's just, now they did a good job. I will say that budget number 3, it came in less than 2025.
Right.
So that was pretty good. It could have been better. There's always room for improvement when you're talking about cutting spending in government, from my perspective. But that wasn't too bad. Well, then they revised it and they kick an extra $1 million. According to Troiano, it's going to police. Oh my God. You want to talk about police? If it's going to police or fire, as much as everybody loves them, and I love them, back to blue. I wear the shirt underneath here. It's down here somewhere. I'm probably going to get a tattoo. But their budget's increasing by almost $1.9 million from 2025. And fire is more than 1.4 million over what 2025 is. So if everybody has to have skin in the game when it talks about getting through this tough time, you have to be willing to look at all departments. You can't cut here, increase this fee, take away the tax credit, and then all the while you're spending almost $2 million more on police when the city's population is declining almost every year. Like, that doesn't make sense to people. Like, doesn't make sense to me. Does it make sense to you, Ralph? It doesn't sound like it makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. And I'd like to also reiterate the fact that city council forgoes their pay raise for the next 2 years voluntarily to try to help the city out. And I think that if we're willing to give up 33% pay raise, which is what we were supposed to get, we gave that up. I would think 10% for the rest of the people shouldn't be out of the question.
That's very fair, very fair. And you can see, folks, here on this far right column. Go ahead and scroll up, Jay. So this is the increase or decrease from 2025. So in black, those are the departments that had increases, and then how much their budgets under this 4th version of the 2026 budget, how much it increases it over 2025. If it's in red, it experienced a cut. So you can see pretty much it's black everywhere. There's a few funds with red. The big one was that transfer funds. And again, talking about transfer out, the general fund, folks, can transfer to anywhere. This is an operational fund. Again, local Marion taxpayers supported across the board. So the city government can transfer this money pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, that's the big bucket.
Right. The other funds that we're going to see here in a minute, those are enterprise funds. So that's when when the city is engaged in some business-like activity, Marion area transit, sanitation, so on and so forth. Then you have special revenue funds. You have all these other different funds. They cannot transfer between. So if sanitation has a surplus, the city can't just say, we're going to take some sanitation surplus and we're going to give it to Marion area transit because nobody rides the bus in this town. So we want to subsidize it. The only one that can subsidize these other departments or these other funds is this bad boy right here, the general fund. So when you see a lot of money that's being transferred out of the general fund, you really got to question whether it's worthwhile. Some things, like the storm sewer system, sanitary sewer system, stuff like infrastructure, yeah, 100%. And a lot of people at, some of these other critical parts of government. That's why I harp on Marion Area Transit, because every year it needs to be bailed out by the general fund. And it's supposed to be an enterprise fund. It's supposed to sustain itself from grants that it might be fortunate enough to receive from the state and federal governments. And it's supposed to earn some money from fares. People are supposed to ride the damn thing, even though they don't. I've broken those statistics down. It's ridiculous. Averages for the entire fleet 6 riders per hour. It costs each bus, every bus that drives, and I think they have a fleet of like 13 or 14 buses, costs them $10 to go a mile. It's horribly inefficient. If you want to talk about government inefficiency, let's write a thesis on Marion Area Transit, because that is one of the most inefficient operations by government in the history of the state of Ohio. It should not be getting a penny from the general fund. You either reduce the scope and scale and the size of that operation to accommodate what you get from grants and what you get from fares. And that's what it's legally, that's what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be self-sustaining, self-sufficient. Or that's really the only option. You cut it down to where it can sustain itself. And that, again, has not been revisited. Nobody's thought about it, because the moment you say anything, you've got a couple, 1, 2, 3 people that are flipping out, talking about how you can't touch Marion Area Transit. And then they go to Marion City Council, and council says, well, this is the public. The public's bitching about increasing the fares by a nickel. Am I wrong, Ralph?
No, you're not wrong. And again, I hate to keep going back to previous administrations, but the rates on the Marion Area Transit has not been increased since 2004. And they are supposed to be reviewed at least every 2 years and raised or lowered as needed. Has not been done. That's a lack of oversight, a lack of supervision, whatever you want to call it. But it's just a failure on the part of those people responsible to keep that as a self-sufficient fund. And now we're faced with the fact that we're either going to have to do away with it, or we're going to have to raise the rates 24 years worth or 20 years worth in 1 year. Yeah, and that just doesn't go over very well.
No, it doesn't. And it makes you wonder whether or not those rate increases, fare increases, were not done as they were supposed to because of political expediency. If you're a politician, what gets people's attention is when their bill increases.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And people bitch, and they'll say, they raised this and I'm going to vote for that other. I hate this person. And, so if you have a monopoly on government, and that's what happened with the Democrats, this is all historical. You can call me some right-wing radical or whatever. I mean, I am, but it doesn't mean what I'm saying is wrong, because it's right.
We've got the receipts.
They were in there. Scherzer was in there for 16 years. He had a Democrat supermajority for almost all of that time. And when I talk about Democrat supermajority, I'd say council, 7 Democrats, 2 Republicans, law director, auditor, treasurer, you name it, on the admin side of things. Uh, do you think that when you have one party control for so many years, they would have a vested interest in keeping rates not increasing? Of course they would.
Yeah,
Of course
exactly.
they would. So, that's just political reality on how things are done. So, you know, and that's why the ordinance was to periodically, and I think, was it the service director that was supposed to do that, Ralph? Who was supposed to do the analysis?
Well, I think that would be your auditor.
The auditor was?
The auditor would take a look at that, and the department managers. I mean, every business that I've been in, the department managers keep track of their budget, and they say, "Oops, it's going to cost me more this year than I'm getting in, so I need to either cut expenses or raise prices," and that's the way every business I've ever been in has operated.
Exactly. And there's some people that, government shouldn't be run by like a business. Well, yeah, when you're talking about an enterprise fund in particular, I mean, that is explicitly what they are supposed to be run like. It's the government engaging in a business-like activity.
Exactly.
So they should be run at a break-even point, and they should not be bailed out. And if you look at the history of the creation of Marion Area Transit by the Democrat Ron Malone administration in the 1980s, people were against it big time. Marion had taxi cab companies, multiple taxi cab companies. So there was an alternative in the private sector. But old Malone from the Carter administration, oh, well, we get this grant money, let's go buy a couple buses and we'll try it out. And there were editorials that were written, opinion editorials, Marion Star. People were not in favor of it. And Ralph, you were here during that time. Did that catch your ear back in the day?
Well, yeah, I remember the cab companies. You used to be able to get a cab, call a cab, they'd come pick you up. Now we have buses, and kind of does the same thing, except now, the city's footing the bill for the buses for the most part.
Yeah, nobody rides them. I mean, I'm sorry I shit on transit constantly, but again, it's supposed to operate at a break-even point. And I don't care. I've heard that argument too. Well, if this year it loses $100,000, or the general fund has to transfer out $100,000 or whatever, it shouldn't have to transfer zero.
I agree.
Manage it appropriately. Manage it like a business. Have it operate at a break-even point.
And I'm 100% in favor of having a transit system. I think we need a transit system, but we need one that maintains itself, not one that has to be bailed out every year.
Right. And that's all I'm saying. I'm not sitting here like, I can't wait until those 4 or 5 people that ride the bus don't have an alternative, for transportation. Like, no, I'm not like that. I'm saying you have to hold these enterprise funds and their departments accountable. This is accountability. Make them run it like a business at a break-even point. They're not sitting here that's the difference between like the private sector. The private sector has a duty to maximize the return on investment for their shareholders. Government's not doing that. They're not sitting here trying to make a profit and saying we're going to pay a dividend out, to all the owners of Marion Area Transit. No, that's the theoretical benefit you get by having the government engage in a business-like activity like public transit, is that they only have to be concerned with operating at a break-even point. But it is the citizens of Marion and their elected officials that have to hold them accountable. They have to make it to a break-even point, or they have to reduce the scale and size of their operation.
Right.
That's what you would do if it was your own business.
Correct.
You would go out and say, I got to cut back. because my sales were less this last year. I have to make sure that I can operate. So that's how all the enterprise funds should be managed. Sanitation's the same way. Okay, sanitation should not be getting bailed out. They have trash service fees, collection fees. They have the recycling program that costs the city of Marion $500,000 a year. And this recyclable material, as far as I'm aware, Ralph, it's not even being recycled, right? It's being like
Well, a
dumped.
lot of it's not. A lot of it goes into landfills.
Yeah. So what a waste. What an absolute waste. I think they have 3 trucks, right? So 3
Three,
recycling trucks and
2 trucks, 3 employees.
3 employees, and they're going around on this superfluous mission of collecting these allegedly recyclable materials that aren't getting recycled, just so, a couple hippies in the city of Marion can feel good about themselves. Like, that's what we're dealing with. Like, again, common sense. When you have an average, these are the numbers that were published by the head of sanitation, the streets, Sandra, what, I think it was Kurt. He's gone now, I think. But anyway, latest data on that was there are roughly 13,000 and some sanitation customers in the city of Marion. So that's residential and commercial. So total. The average customer in the city of Marion is only recycling like 1.39 pounds of recyclable material weekly. So if you put all of that 1.39 pounds a week into trash bags, standard size trash bags, which are like 50 pounds, let's say, capacity, you could put a whole year's of recyclable material in 2 bags per customer. So is that a worthwhile venture in the city of Marion to spend $500,000 a year on? Jay, does that make sense to you? Ralph?
No, I mean, we've talked about this in the group chats extensively, and it makes absolutely no sense to me.
Am I missing the mark, Ralph, on that analysis?
No, I think it comes under the same philosophy as the rest of the things. Is it should pay for itself, and if it doesn't, then we need to find out why and correct the problem. I think if I remember correctly, when they first started the recycling program, they paid us to take our recycling. And somewhere along the line, it has changed. And now we're paying like $7 a ton to them to get rid of it. That just doesn't make sense to me. Sure, it helps to relieve the load on our landfill, but at what cost?
Yeah, and that's why that's a good point, Ralph. And you were around Marion when the recycling program was started in 1988. And it was started precisely because the old Marion landfill just west of town was filling up. Its capacity was very much in question. So that's why they said, well, hell, if people are starting to get into this Earth Day thing, man, so let's just try out. And they did a trial run to see if anybody would even do it at all, because again, most people in Marion were kind of questioning the prudency of it. But that's how it started. Is they say, well, our city landfill is filling up, and the EPA started giving the city some issues. That's why it got shut down not that long after that.
Right.
Do you remember these? That is nothing. It's nothing, but it comes with an expense. And I've even looked at what the cost would be, roughly an approximate cost, if they want to keep it. So your sanitation, your trash fee is going up. Well, if everybody, all 13,000 some odd customers in the city of Marion, agreed to an increase of about $2.64 more than what the increase rate is going to be, then you can keep recycling. So that's the kind of stuff that, is it worth it? You want to pay an extra, let's say $3 a month to keep recycling for that somebody to haul off that 1.39 pounds that you might throw out at the curb? Is it worth it, Ralph? Is it worth it?
Well, and I think that probably some people would say yes. I think the majority would say no. Um, we've had the recycling mentality put into our heads for so long that we feel guilty if we don't. But are they willing to pay the $3 above and beyond what they're paying now or going to pay to do that? I don't know if the majority of people in Marion would say yes to that.
Right. And then, like I said, this is a kind of discussion, kind of analysis. But when you look into the figures, they kind of speak for themselves. If it was something that was really valuable and people really appreciated, then it would be clear in the tonnage of recyclable materials that are hauled out of the city. It's not. It's not there. It's not there. Crunch the numbers. They are what they are. Check out the article, and you can learn more than you probably cared to know about recycling statistics in the city of Marion. All right, we've got second part here of the old Marion City budget, Ralph. So again, these are your special revenue funds, your debt service funds, capital improvement, enterprise, those good old government-like activities, internal services, and fiduciary funds. All right, so again, this kind of macro, if you can kind of see it, that far right column, the black numbers are increases, the red numbers are decreases over 2025's figures. So Jay, let's play find the ridiculous increase. All right, these are all pretty high, but are any of them ridiculous? Or any of them 7-figure increases? Go down. I don't see any 7 figures yet.
I
All
see
right, now we
6.
made we've got 6 figures across. There's many funds with 6-figure increases. But let's go to the second page of the old budget, the second to this one, the third overall. This is where those nuggets are, Ralph. Those 7-figure increases. All right, so go up, Jay. All right, we got one right there. Second line, police. Sound the alarm. We got police with a $1.879 million increase over 2025. Okay, again, back the blue. Love it. We want protection. We love our police. But did they get a blank check? Can anybody question their expenditures? Can anybody question their staffing levels? Can anybody say, hey, we're in tough shape financially with our budgets, and we're going to expect everybody to suffer equally as we get through this process? And then you look and you say, police is getting $1.9 million, almost more than what they got last year. Can you justify that in a city that population is declining? Again, we've talked about it. I don't think you can, but here it is on paper. You can see it through the different proposed budgets. And interestingly, Ralph, it dropped a little bit, but not that much between proposed budget number 3 or number 2 and number 3 when they did the 10%. So police didn't cut. They cut some. Looks like they cut about 700,000 off of that inflated projection for 2026, but it wasn't 10%. So that's one. Fire is another. So fire is over $1.4 million more than what 2025 was. Again, love fire, love them. Wouldn't dare harm a hair on any of their little heads. But 1.4 million more than last year. You know, you gotta look at that.
Yeah, I would have to take a look at what that consists of. If that's equipment cost and we need to replace equipment, then, it might be a justified expense. Because I know that you can probably get by with not replacing a fire truck or a cruiser for a year, maybe two. But when you start getting into 3, 4, and 5 years of doing without a replacement, you're taking a chance on the safety of the people. So I'd have to take a look at and see just exactly what is that increase? Why is it increased?
Check out the Swamp Fox. He's got an article on the police and some historic data. But then we'll also break down, might break down each individual line item expenditure within the police department. But majority of the police department, big time, is salary and benefits.
Yeah, wages and benefits,
So
right?
you can't put $2 million, almost $1.9 million on a couple cruisers or something like that. They're spending a lot of money. They're spending a lot of money. It's fact of the matter. So
Well, I know
nobody wants to say anything. You can't say anything because then you're accused of not backing the blue. Damn it! I'm going to get a tattoo with a flag with a blue stripe on my chest. I back the blue 100%. Ralph, go ahead.
Well, I know that police have a contract. Police, the fire, steel workers, AFSCME, they all have contracts coming up this year, and so those costs probably going to raise.
They're going up.
Yes.
Buddy, oh, we're never going to have a balanced budget, Ralph. Oh, we're never getting out of this. Send in the state. Just send in the state already. Get it over with. Pull the Band-Aid off.
It's like trying to herd cats.
I know. My God. Oh, all right. So let's see some of these other big time increases. Airport improvement. All right. I don't know shit about Marion's airport. Do you know? Does anybody know? I've never been like, I'm going to fly out to Vegas this weekend. Let me hop on a plane in Marion. Like, who the hell uses the airport? Does anybody use it? Like, what is it? I know where it is, and I know there are planes that like fly, small planes and stuff, but who uses the Marion airport?
Well, I know a lot of private planes are there, but also some of the businesses here in town have planes out there. They have hangars. I know when I worked at the GTE, we used to fly out of Marion all the time, going to, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, all those places. And the plane was headquartered here in Marion. As far as wanting to go to Vegas, I think you're going to have to go to Columbus to do that. Because
so let's say we have a few companies, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Not many. Let's say Whirlpool. So some rich asshole from St. Joe or something for Whirlpool wants to fly to visit the factory in Marion, and he takes a little private plane and flies to Marion. Why are we paying for that privilege for this company? Like, I don't know. We spend a lot of money on stuff like this, and I don't think the average person sees a benefit to it, but yet we're stuck with the bill, like, on some of this. And I know a lot of grant money comes to the airport. Don't get me wrong, I know that.
Right.
But I don't know. Do you know?
Well, let me try to explain some of that. I think I have an insight on it. When I was on the Economic Development Committee, one of the things we had to do was to try to entice people to locate their businesses in Marion and give them a reason why they should. And the only way that you're going to convince anybody to come to another city is to that it's going to be profitable to them to do that. They're either going to have to receive services or a financial credit or a rebate or something like that to make it profitable for them to operate their business in the city. So as far as the airport goes, you want to have an airport where they can fly their planes in and out. They can have their executive meetings. And the more they're able to do that, the better off they're going to be as far as conducting their business. It's the same thing as if you want to sell your home. The thing that you have to do is you have to go through and repair everything. You have to make sure everything's tip-top shape, fresh coat of paint, and make it look nice so that people are going to come in and say, yeah, this is a place I want to live. If somebody wants to come into your city, you have to give them incentives to come because there's a lot of competition. You know, if a business wanted to come to Marion, Ohio, they would have their choice of any number of cities that they could come to. And a lot of those cities say, hey, we won't charge you any taxes for 15 years, no property taxes. Other ones will say, you know, we will give you an incentive rebate and we'll provide you with water, sewer, rail, everything like that to make it profitable for that business to come to your town so that you can enjoy the income tax off of that from them and their employees. So that's one of the reasons you have to do that, even though it's a cost to the city. In the long run, you hope it will be a benefit as far as getting new employment, creating new jobs, and in return, having better schools, having better parks and everything like that, because you can't do anything unless you have the tax base to do it with.
Airports, folks. Airports are the key to economic development. Let's just fill Marion County with airports, and then all this investment's going to come flying in from east, west, north, south. I don't know. No, I get what you mean, Ralph. I hear you on that. I
wouldn't want to fill Marion County with airports, but I would like to see the one we have made better. And I know that we did get a grant to replace the runway, so that helps. Grant money is good.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, take it.
Yeah, we got
Twyla
in the comments talking about private jets come in, minimum cost of the city, and almost all improvements are covered by grants, she said.
Correct.
I did say that. Don't accuse me of not saying that. Most of it, like, they get a lot of grant money. I just have never. I've always driven by it on Pole Lane, and been like, oh yeah, there's the airport. And then, you know, when you get a little older, you're like, who the hell uses the airport here? Like, I don't know, you know. But it's just the ignorance. It's the ignorance of me. I'm just a stupid, ignorant guy, Ralph. I don't know what to say, but
you're pretty smart.
Well, you know, yeah. I can look at a budget. Let's just say that I can't fly a plane. I can't justify airport expenditures, but I can look at the budget. So, all right. So that's one of the things that increased. Let's see here. Sanitary sewer improvements, 1.4 million. Again, I think as far as a legitimate government purpose, investments in infrastructure. So if you want to see streets, construction, maintenance, repair expenditures, you want them to be efficient. Any of these other like infrastructure things, that in my mind, that's one of the things that government can do that is of the utmost legitimacy. So any of these sanitary sewer improvement saw a substantial increase. That's actually where the transfer out from the general fund. That's why it's highlighted in yellow. So even though Troiano said that it was to shore up police and fire budgets, that's not what the figures say. And these figures are attached to the ordinances themselves. So that jumped up actually by more than $1 million. It was $1.38 million. into that sanitary sewer improvement fund. Let's see what else we got here. Sanitation increased by 670,000. So a lot, but not seven figures. Stormwater utility and storm sewer improvement. Storm sewer improvement actually went down by $1.5 million. That's probably the projects that they were planning to do, I imagine. Is that right, Ralph?
Well, I'm not really sure, but I would think it might be projects that are coming to completion.
Completion, okay. I thought there was one on like North Prospect or something that they were planning to do that.
I think so. Yeah.
Done. All right, go ahead and scroll down, Jay. Let's see these others. There's another one I have a big question on that maybe you can explain. Where's my favorite? My favorite of all time. Transit. Transit is getting $174,000 more than 2025. Yay for transit and the 6 people that ride the bus. Okay. Aquatic Center. Aquatic Center is increased to $824,000. So an increase of $383,000 over last year. What's that all about, Ralph?
Well, yeah, I have a question on that too, because I really don't think that the Aquatic Center has broke even since it was created.
Nope.
And if I remember right, there was some issues when they actually started the Aquatic Center. And one of the best things that Schertzer ever did was he vetoed it, and I think the council overrode his veto, if I'm not mistaken.
They did.
To have it built, and I don't think it's met a break-even point since then.
Nope. The only time that it was that it I think didn't lose money was when it was shut down during COVID or something like that.
There you go.
So that's another example, folks, of so it's nice. I mean, you know, people say, oh, well, you know, be nice to have this service by the city or whatever. Somebody down the line said it'd be nice if the city had a pool for, you know, kids or families take their kids and families to the pool, and there wasn't a private company that had a pool operation in the public pool operation in the city of Marion. So somebody thought, hey, that's a use for our tax dollars to engage in this. And we're going to engage in it as an enterprise, as a government doing a business-like activity.
Right.
So again, between whatever the Aquatic Center could apply for in grant funding for such a purpose from the state or the federal governments, and then they're supposed to make up that budget, their expenses, supposed to break even by bringing in fees. So charges for people actually using the pool, actually swimming. And between grants and fees for swimming, they're supposed to break even.
Right.
They don't. So again, it's another enterprise fund. It's another business-like activity that is having to get bailed out regularly by the general fund, by you.
So then we have to ask ourselves the question, between grants and cost or fees, where are we dropping the ball? Are we not getting enough grants, or are we not charging enough? Or is it a matter of both? And if so, we need to increase those to at least break even.
Right. That's it. That's the analysis that should be done on an annual basis.
Correct.
So that's what you want. You want department heads. They should be doing this instead of just filling out a budget and adding 10% or adding 15%, which honestly, I'm not exaggerating. I'm 99.9% confident that most of these government bureaucrats, and not just in the city of Marion, but everywhere, that's how they budget. They'll take what they spent last year. They try to make sure that they spend extra every last penny so they don't lose it. so they can justify their existence and continued aggrandizement. And then when they're planning and submitting budgets for the next year, they'll add in 10%. They don't add in actual projected costs. There's no thought to it. They're not like, well, we did this many, whatever. We sold this many tickets to the pool, and we had, this much expenditures for. I don't think they put that much thought to it. I honestly think they take some arbitrary figure and they just add it on to what they spent last year, and they said, "Oh, here's our budget." And then usually, if it's something that is somewhat emotional, if we're talking about some aspect of government that has some emotional connection, then they use any cuts to that to say, "Oh, well, think of the children. Think of the children, Ralph. If you cut this, like the children will suffer."
You
That's
hate
how it
children.
works.
Yep. I agree.
Oh man. All right.
But
Well,
true story. When I was working for companies back before I retired, and even in the military, come toward the end of the year, we would get a notice that would say, "We've got X number of dollars extra in the budget we need to spend before the end of the year. And so anything that you want to order, go ahead and order it before such and such a date, and we'll try to get it in there." But they were trying to spend the extra money they had so that they could get more next year.
yeah. I mean, that's not being good stewards of the
No,
taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. But that's how it works. It's like I said, I'm not making this as a blanket accusation against the city of Marion now or in the past. That's
it's
government.
common business practice.
Yeah, that's just how government operates. And in the age of big government, it's costly. So the city of Marion has, look at that at the bottom, almost a $69 million projected overall budget for 2026. And then the original projected total budget for 2026, the one that was unveiled or proposed on November 17th, was almost $80 million.
Right.
So lots of money. We're talking about lots of money. And like Ralph said, 350-ish city employees, one of the largest employers in the city of Marion. I mean, um, it's a big operation. So you want people asking the questions. You want them to do it regularly. You want people analyzing, thinking critically. And the question should always be, there's a guy, Ralph, and audience. His name's John Plesnick. He's kind of the
I know,
brain.
John. Yeah.
You know John?
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever your position is on the Axe the Tax movement, okay? Whatever it is. And John is part of that. He's kind of the tax policy expert. He's a professor. He's an attorney, tax law and stuff. He's also Lake County Commissioner, and his nickname is Commissioner No, because he's a fiscal conservative. He's a budget hawk. So the way his philosophy is for government, at least in government expenditures, is if somebody comes and says, "Hey, I want money for that," no, unless you convince me that there's a legitimate government purpose for
Right.
this appropriation or this expenditure. That's what we want. We want our politicians to, that should be the default. It shouldn't be the mindset of, how can I give money away? How can I spend more money? It should be, how can I not spend money unless it's absolutely necessary and serves a legitimate public purpose. Ralph, how do you
Yes,
know
sir.
John?
Well, I thought I knew who you were talking about, but The John I know is not Lake County Commissioner.
Okay, all right. Could be another John Plesnick, but still, check him out. He's an interesting cat for sure. Again, whatever your position is on this axe the tax, the movement to have a constitutional amendment, ballot initiative to eliminate the property taxes in the state of Ohio, whatever your position is on that, his philosophy is a good one when it comes to government and spending. And again, that doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. It just means that it needs to serve a legitimate public purpose, and it needs to be administered responsibly. And the first and foremost thought should always be to be a good steward of the taxpayer's hard-earned dollar. So with that, Jay, do you have any final questions here for Chuck Norris before he goes off to the next Kung Fu competition?
I don't think so.
No? All right.
Nope. Me and Ralph talk a lot.
Yeah, Cody, let me explain to you my position on taxes, okay? My position on taxes is I'd like to see every tax done away with. I would like to see no taxes whatsoever. However, I am also kind of a common sense, pragmatic type person that realizes that if you don't have taxes, you're not going to have any services whatsoever. You're going to have to pay for everything that you want done. And really, the only way that we can get by with no taxes would be you would have to pay the going retail price for every service that we have. And if you called a policeman, they would charge you for every call. Depending on the type of call, you'd get a different charge. Same thing with trash. They would charge you by the pound or by the bag, somewhere or other. And so if they picked up 3 bags, you'd end up paying $15 or $20 that day. Next week, you may pay another $15 or $20. That makes it fair to the people that use the product. Property taxes is not fair. Property taxes support schools. I haven't had a kid in school in 40 years, you know. So why should I be paying property taxes to support the schools? Well, because I do have grandkids and great-grandkids, their parents pay property taxes too. But I know that if we don't have that tax, then I have to come up with something else. And the fair tax is the tax that taxes the person that uses the product or whatever it is being taxed. So if you pay sales tax on a car, that's not a fair tax because you're buying my car and you have a choice whether to buy my car or not. Same thing with a new coat, a new pair of pants, a new pair of shoes. You pay sales tax because that's what you want. But I don't agree with income tax, and I do know that I've been doing some research on that, and the city, the state law says that the city that the person works in has first priority on the income tax. And maybe that's so because that's where you're earning your income. And again, you have a choice of, I don't like the 2.5% sales tax that this place charges, so I'm going to find a job in a place that only charges 1.5%. So you could do that, but it's not practical. So I think that if we could get rid of all taxes, I'd vote yes on that any day of the week. But we can't, so we have to decide what's the most fair tax that people can pay and get what they need. So that's my spiel on that.
No, I think it's a wise position, and if you understand, and I try to touch on this in a lot of different articles that I've done as far as the history of taxation, people need to realize what before the age of big government, that's when we were the wealthiest in the nation. So if you drive around the city of Marion, or you drive around Mansfield, or you drive around Lima, or you name it, Cleveland, whatever, anywhere. When were the buildings built? Not only houses, but go and look at these huge, beautiful buildings that were constructed of brick and stone or whatever around the turn of the century, the last couple decades of the 19th century. Look at Marion's downtown. Those buildings are still in use, almost all of them, and they're being rehabbed and everything. Luke Henry's been doing a lot of work, among other people. But look at the beauty of them and the prevalence for a town at the time that was small. Okay, Marion's population didn't hit city status until the 1890s, so it didn't hit 5,000 people until the 1890s. But a lot of it's homes and other structures and stuff. People had money. That's my point. They weren't feeding this parasite, this big government parasite, this welfare state. And people weren't out on the streets like begging and dying and everything like them people once that are completely ignorant of history. That's not how it was. You had a different system. People earned their living by the sweat of their brow, and they actually worked. They actually contributed to society. And for those select few people that were too old or infirm, private charity did a wonderful job. The churches, other fraternal groups stepped in and really helped people. Now those organizations have pretty much gone by the wayside for the most part. I mean, they still try to do as much charitable operations that they can, and they'll usually pick some little targeted group, like, we're going to give people eyeglasses. That's going to be our shtick. Or we're going to help fight polio, back in the 50s or whatever. And that was their shtick. But back then, before the welfare state, before the age of big government, people were the most prosperous, and the government was the smallest. Paid very little in the way of taxes. The only thing that existed prior to 1913 on an individual basis was a property tax. It was small. Millage rates were small. You were paying for very minimal government services. You were paying for basically infrastructure and the things that you couldn't do as an individual by yourself. So I can't enforce the justice system by myself. So we need to assess a small amount of money, just enough to run a court system, just enough to have as many cops or marshals or whatever we need. That's how that worked. And then it was assessed on just property owners, because back in those days, if you didn't own property, you weren't a man. That's what they would say. I mean, any kind of man if you don't own property. And that just expanded. They never got rid of it. So they implemented the income tax at the federal level in 1913. They implemented the income tax at the state level in 1972. They implemented Social Security tax. They implemented sales taxes in the state of Ohio, I think, in 1934, and gradually expanded. They're always expanding, always expanding. So what my point is, like, property taxes just never, even though they essentially replaced them back then, they never got rid of it. They left it there as the vestige of the past. And
taxes never go away.
Yeah, it's the least fair. The most fair taxes are those that are consumption-based, because they're going to be spread out equally. If you consume more, you pay more. Wealth-based taxes, like income taxes, are unfair, and they punish people for having earning income and that sort of thing.
Punish you for being successful.
Yeah, they punish you for being successful, right, Ralph? And the property tax is the same thing. Like, only a certain proportion of people own property and pay property taxes. And people want to say, well, if I rent, my landlord, man, is going to raise my rent because his property taxes went up. No, because you have two main differences. You've got the fact that a lot of landlords don't want to mess with a good tenant. Let's say you are a good tenant. They don't cause you problems. You pay your rent on time. You don't tear the hell out of the place. They may eat that just because you're a good tenant. I know a lot of different landlords that's their mentality. So they will eat that property tax increase that they're having to pay for that rental property that they own because you're a good tenant. The other thing is there's a lot of people that are on Section 8. They're on government subsidized housing or different housing programs.
Mhm.
So they don't give a shit if the property taxes go up because they're getting subsidized,
Right.
So that's I don't know. That's what people need to look at when you're talking about tax plans. So all right, well, we've rambled on here, Ralph, and into the early hours of the morning, it seems. So
Yep.
any other final words for the constituents out there?
Yeah, I do have something. I keep hearing a lot about how could we let this happen to the city, uh, and I hear the city's full of thieves, crooks. Council is crooked, um, and I just want to say that city council has the oversight of the city administration. We are responsible to make sure that the city is doing the right job. Councils in the past failed that test. We're trying to pass that test. But above and beyond that, the citizens of Marion have the oversight over city council. It's your responsibility as a voting citizen of Marion to make sure we do our jobs. And if those elected people in the past were allowed to continue to get reelected, even though they were doing a terrible job, that falls on the citizens of Marion. And I think they're just as culpable and responsible as any city council person or any city administration person. If it's an elected official, the citizens have the oversight. And that's the responsibility of the citizens to make sure that they're doing the job, or you do a recall vote, one or the other.
Yeah. Truer words have not been spoken, my man. You got to be active. You got to always be vigilant. That's what I say at the close of every show here on the Watchmen Report. You really have to be. So
Yep.
Keep an eye on things. Participate in government. Speak your mind. Let them know what you want, what you think. That's the only way anything's going to improve. And Marion's got to do a better job voting. I'm sorry, but there are wards here where on election day, if it wasn't, if we didn't do all this early voting stuff, you'd look at the precinct and it'd be like tumbleweeds, just flowing out in front of the door because they don't vote. People don't vote.
Right.
You have to be involved. You have to participate. Otherwise, you deserve what you get. So get off your ass, participate, go to council meetings, call this cat up on the phone, say, Ralph, this is what I think, and things will be better. That's what needs to be done. That's what needs to be done. And he's waiting for you. He's soliciting. He's like one of those commercial, those infomercial at the late nights, call now. Call now. Representatives are here waiting on the line. It's Ralph Smith. He's waiting on the line for you to call.
I watch my phone blow up here.
Right.
That's
All right. Well, I think we touched on a lot, folks. So hopefully you came away with a better understanding of what's going on in the city of Marion with regards to the budget, finances, the city's plan, moving forward to address some of these items, some of the misunderstandings, that are out there, accusations that are being made by people who just don't know. I don't know how much of it is malicious, intentional. I think a lot of people just don't pay a lot of attention, and unfortunately you can go out there and you can do an article on Trump. And good Lord, if you do an article on Trump, you're going to get the people that love Trump and the people that absolutely hate him, that have Trump derangement syndrome, that just can't get over anything. They just obsess about Trump 24/7, 365. So you can do an article on that. You can get all kind of attention and interaction and people going back and forth and hundreds of comments. But then you do something that about local government, you do something, about what's going on in the city of Marion, or something that impacts you here locally the most, more than anything else. And people are just like, scroll through, boring, old news, I don't give a shit. Until they get their bill, until they get a notification saying, you raised my whatever by $5 a month? I hate you. And then they go and they say, they hear just passively, they get that figure like a deficit of 8.9 million. And then they'll say, they stole it. They stole it. Damn it. That's why they're charging me $5 more a month. So if you would pay attention and you would participate, you wouldn't be in that situation. You wouldn't be freaking out.
Let me say something about that $8 million that's supposedly missing. That $8 million has not been stolen, and it's not missing. It's an accounting error. You were talking about the big buckets and the little buckets and things that are assigned from the big bucket to the little bucket. And over the years, there's been mistakes made in assigning to the buckets. And some of the buckets don't show as much money as they should have. They're a negative balance. And other buckets are showing more than they should have, so they're a positive balance. But the money is not missing. It's just an accounting error. It's on paper. And as soon as we can get these reconciliations done, I believe it'll all come out smooth in the wash.
That's a good point. I mean, you don't know. It could be more. It could be less. It's
Correct.
Just whatever is showing right now through this effed up system, New World, which.
But I don't think that we're missing $8 million from the bank.
No. Yeah, definitely not. So that's a very good point. And like I said, covered a lot of topics here. Check out MarionWatch.com. There's so many articles on there. Check out our buddy the Swamp Fox with all his good financial and budgetary analysis. Reach out to your local councilman. Come to the next meeting, which is held this coming Monday. It's a regular session of Marion City Council. Monday, 6:30, second floor of City Hall on West Center Street. And even if you don't want to go up there to the podium and say anything, just go for the first time to observe a meeting. And then maybe the next time you go, you've kind of digested some things. Those synapses start firing when it comes to city issues. And then you go up to the podium and you contribute. So that's the key. And yeah, we'll get through this. Marion will get through it. It's been through tough times before, many, many tough times before, and it's resilient. The people of Marion are resilient, and I think that we have some good people who genuinely care, like Ralph Smith, that are in those positions, and they are looking out. Again, will they make the right decision every single time? No. But they have the right mentality that they're trying and they'll listen. So that's huge when you're talking about a politician, because I can't think of many politicians that I would piss on if they were on fire. But Ralph Smith is one of those politicians. I would certainly.
I'm one
do
of those
that.
that you would piss on, or no?
Yeah, I would piss on you if you were on fire to help you out, to try to extinguish the
That's
fire,
good.
Ralph. The other politicians, I would sit there and be like, let them burn. Let them burn.
Okay.
Oh, man. You're like, I'm never coming on this show again.
Well, I just heard you say piss on Ralph Smith, so
Oh, no. Oh, man.
I'm just joking with you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we have fun and, we learn some things along the way too. So, for Jason Foreman, for our very special guest, Ralph Smith, I'm Cody Higley, and this has been the Watchman's Report. And remember, folks, the Watchman is always vigilant. So until next time, take care.
Take care. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Sound the alarm! To arms! They are here!